So ADH or vasopressin, these are proteins derived made up of amino acid. So the receptors for this ADH hormone or vasopressin hormone will be on the cell membrane, cell surface. The receptors will be present on the cell membrane. There is very important organ in your body. The name of that organ is kidney. Kidney is made up of small units of cells, and that subunit is called a nephron. So if we draw a nephron, this one is called Bowman's capsule. There is a blood vessels, and these blood vessels are called glomerulus. This Bowman's capsules converting into proximal convoluted tubule and then loop of Henle and then distal convoluted tubule. This one is proximal convoluted tubule, this one is loop of Henle, and this one is distal convoluted tubule, and these are collecting ducts. So all of the action that is being performed by ADH hormone or the vasopressin hormone are on the collecting ducts. Predominantly it performs its action on the collecting ducts. For this collecting duct we will enhance this so that it is visible to each and everyone. Let me draw a cell. For example, this is a cell. There are special receptors These receptors are called V2 receptors. These receptors are called V2 receptors. We have already discussed that the osmolality of the blood and the blood pressure are felt by two very important organs, and that was SFO and VO. These both were combined together and called osmoreceptors. So V2 receptors, whenever these osmoreceptors felt that the blood pressure is lowered or the blood osmolality is higher, it passes their signals to supraoptic nuclei, which is responsible for the production of ADH hormone and vasopressin, and ultimately that is secreted into the blood. And there are special receptors on the collecting ducts. This is a cell of a collecting duct. So let me write it down. Cell of collecting duct. There are special receptors on the cells of collecting ducts, and these receptors are called V2 receptors. So ADH from this supraoptic nuclei to the neural hypophysis coming to the bloodstream, and ultimately it will reach to the V2 receptor. After it reached the V2 receptor, it will activate G protein. It will activate G protein. When it activates G protein, it will activate another enzyme. The name of that enzyme is adenylyl cyclase. It will activate another enzyme. The name of that enzyme is adenylyl cyclase. When adenylyl cyclase is activated, ATP, phosphorylate ATP will be broken down, phosphorylation will takes place, and protein kinase A. The name of this protein, don't forget the name of this protein, protein kinase A, is activated. this is activated. Whenever protein kinase A is activated, it helps us to perform, it helps us to open certain channels. For example, this is a cell nuclei, and their nuclei has a DNA and RNA. These DNA and RNA, there is a process of transcription and translation. So after the process of transcription and translation, certain stimuli, certain vesicles will be formed, and these vesicles have certain aquaporins, and these aquaporins, let me draw it here. There are certain aquaporins. These aquaporins are activated inside the cell. These aquaporins are activated inside the cell. There are other certain channels on the cell membrane. These aquaporins are aquaporins type 2. These aquaporins are aquaporin type 2. There are certain certain channels on the cell membrane of the collecting ducts. These channels are having aquaporins, and these aquaporins are type 3 and type 4. There are type 3 and type 4 channels. These channels are open and water is being absorbed from outside to inside, and hence the absorption of the water is increased this way. We have already discussed that the stimuli is lower blood pressure, and after lower blood pressure the other stimulus was the increased blood osmolarity. If the blood osmolarity is higher than 290, it will tend to absorb more water, so that the amount of the solvent is higher as compared to the amount of solutes. There are other, let me draw here, there are other smooth muscles in the body. For example, this is a muscle. There are other smooth muscles in the body. These smooth muscles has other receptors, like the receptors here was V2 receptors. This was V2 receptor. There are other receptors. Those receptors are called V1 receptors. Those receptors are called V1 receptor. V1 receptors tends to be present on the surface of the smooth muscles, and it tends to sense the presence of ADH hormone, and whenever the ADH hormone is coming in contact with this receptor, for example, there is a receptor, let me draw here. Whenever this receptor is coming into contact with the ADH hormone, it tends to constrict. These smooth muscles tends to constrict. So, as we have already said, ADH hormones tends to increase the blood pressure. Whenever the blood pressure is lower, the supraoptic nuclei help for the production of ADH hormone and vasopressin, and it tends to increase the blood pressure by two mechanisms. One mechanism, by helping us to enhance the absorption of water, by helping us to absorb the more water, number one. Number second, it tends to constrict smooth muscles so that blood pressure can be increased. There are two pathologies related with the ADH hormone. Number one, if there is less amount of ADH, and number second, if there is more amount of the production of ADH hormone.